Hello, I am Sydney.
And I'm Melanie.
This is Drawntaneous. So let's see what our category is for today.
Here we go. So today, Sydney, you're going to draw an OC from Steven Universe.
See, I already know which one I'm gonna do because they already exist.
Oh, you already have an OC?
I do, yeah.
Perfect.
So back in the day, I'm still in contact with one of them, but some friends and I were making a Steven Universe fan comic, and we all made our own characters.
Whatever happened to the fan comic?
Oh, well, Aya's still working on it. Or Jill, I guess. Jill's still working
Okay.
on it. We fell out with some of the people who were a part of it.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah.
So one thing Steven Universe is known for is their depictions of gender, of different identities, and so that kind of ties into a comic book we've both read recently. It's an indie comic.
And by recently, I mean I literally was just reading
now.
it.
We bought it when we were at Emerald City Comic Con, and we might have mentioned it on a previous episode if that episode got released. It is Cosplay by Nikki Smith, and it's published by Iron Circus Comics. Disclaimer, it is 18 and plus. So if you're not 18, at least 18 years old.
It's a sexy book.
Yeah, if you're not 18 years old, you can't buy it. But if you are over 18 years old, please do. It's a delightful little book that, if you haven't guessed or if you don't know what crossplay is the practice of cosplaying as an opposite gender than yourself. And cosplay is the practice of dressing up as characters. Some people, it goes into embodying these characters as well, so learning how to act like them and present that character accurately. Some people don't go that far. It's more about the craftsmanship of the costume, or it's just for fun, appreciating the look, doing something in a group. It's a very varied, very, I guess, it's gaining popularity these days.
Well, yeah, as like queer expression is becoming more accepted, then it's becoming easier for people to participate.
I would say there's also a lot more resources.
Oh yeah, 100%.
When I cosplayed, gosh, that's back in 2007.
God, we didn't even know each other yet.
No, we didn't. It was very, very early on. I started early high school because that's when I somehow found money to put into cosplay and going to conventions. So I'm familiar with the con culture, with the cosplay culture. So reading the book Crossplay was very familiar to me. I knew these kinds of people. Not necessarily these identities represented, but the culture of cosplaying and the culture of going to conventions was very, very familiar to me. So it was quite nice to see. Sydney, do you have any experience cosplaying, or you have experience convention going?
Oh, absolutely. I was a poor kid, so like cosplay, I think I cosplayed once and was so embarrassed by how poor it was that like I just didn't do it again. Not until I went to Anime Expo
when
with
we
you,
cosplayed.
and we were Cecil and Carlos from Night Vale. And that was before we were dating.
And yet, we did saucy poses for those characters, because if you guys don't follow Welcome to Night Vale, Cecil and Carlos are involved in quite a big way. In fact, they get married later on.
They sure do.
But like Sydney touched on, cosplay is a way that a lot of people are kind of learning how to explore identities. And that might not be the case for everybody. It might just be, hey, I really enjoy dressing up, either as a character of my gender or a character of my opposite gender. And now that I think about it, crossplay might have developed because there historically are less interesting female characters to play. So it's only natural. Cosplay seems to be a very female-heavy hobby. If you look at all the popular ones on Instagram and stuff, it seems to be many.
For a male cosplayer to become popular, they have to be, Leon Shiro, who is like...
That'd be ripped. Super...
Fucking ripped!
Super shredded. Or on the opposite spectrum, a very handsome, beautiful Asian man seems to be the two kind of extremes for male cosplayers.
Yes.
Female cosplayers, have a little more leeway in the fact that they're able to, I guess, embody these fictional, typically animated characters in such a way that seems more convincing, I suppose. I don't know.
It's harder. I would argue it's harder to be a woman cosplayer because you are really put under the microscope.
You
of
are
scrutiny,
put under a lot of scrutiny, yes.
and
that's true.
fucking creepers who are like, hey, go up these stairs. I'm not going to stand under them for no reason.
Yeah, well, we're not going to talk necessarily about
back on the book.
The downsides of there's problems with every culture, and I wouldn't say that's necessarily cosplay. It's just being
Creeps.
in convention settings where there are not strong anti-harassment policies, which have gotten better in these years.
Oh, thank God
Like
for
I
that.
said, back in 2007, that was pretty new, I would say. That was a conversation that was only starting to be had, not only by cosplayers themselves, but by conventions and the people who run the conventions. So it's really nice to see that culture's changed and it's frowned upon. Sure, you still likely have predators out there who are prying on young people in cosplay. But again, that is not the point of the conversation today. I would like to talk more about the subject matter of the book that we read, Crossplay. So do you want to talk about kind of an overview of what the book is about?
So it is a bunch of friends who've gone to MegaCon together, and they are part of a cosplay group. So they do the photos, they help each other with costumes. It's actually probably the most honest portrayal of cosplay I've seen in a while. Because it's like...
where's the concealer? I forgot mine, and I have a tattoo.
Well, and like doing makeup in the room while someone's in the shower, and you can see them naked, because it's like, look, man, there's no time for shame.
Yeah, and everybody's changing, and nobody cares. Everybody's getting ready, doing different things.
It's theater kid paradise.
But the representation of the book is also very diverse. You have a lot of different kinds of characters, a lot of representations of people of color, a lot of representations of different identities. Off the top of my head, in the beginning of the book, they quickly go through the heterosexual couples. But even then, they're not standard heterosexual couples. You have
there's like pegging, right?
Yeah, you have a guy
story.
and a girl, but the guy who looks pretty stereotypical guy gets pegged by his girlfriend, and then the other one,
and it wasn't even like she was like, I want to try something new, and he's like not sure. He initiates it. Like he was like, hey, I might have packed your strap on. She's like, yeah, I know.
He was super into it.
Yeah.
The other one is we don't really know what their gender identity is, but one of the, actually no, I think they do say it's a he. I think they use he pronouns for him. But he's in a dress, and his girlfriend's like, hey, if you mess this one up, I'm not making you another one.
While blowing him.
Yeah, so those were really fun to see that even the heterosexual couples were not your typical what you would expect. And then from there, it kind of just develops more and more. There's a couple of characters who, one of them might have known she was into women. The other character in this couple definitely was new to her exploration of sexual orientation. So it's her discovering that, oh my gosh, I kissed a girl and I was really into it.
Dare I say, I kissed a girl and I liked it.
You see, I was avoiding that, but if you want to go ahead and bring Kate Perry into this, I guess that's fine. But there's also a gentleman who is discovering his gender identity, really coming to realize that, hey, I identify as male. And then having somebody else help him, it's a very, very touching scene where he's just very upset and distraught. And
especially because like his arm is broken, so he can't even
cast.
Put a binder on if he wanted to.
And he couldn't cosplay because he can't get into the water. Their cosplay group was row, as in a rowing team. So they're in the water, they're splashing around, so they can't be part of the fun. But the thing that was most upsetting to them was that they're looking around, seeing people being able to express their genders and being true to themselves. And he couldn't do it because of his binder.
And his cast.
And his cat, or yeah, he didn't have a binder, and he couldn't use one, or he wasn't even going to cosplay because he had this cast on. But this other character comes around and helps him, talks him through putting on the binder and helps him through it, and it's just very sweet. And it's just kind of seeing this fulfillment of, oh my gosh, yes, this is who I am as this character. It was Jay. Just seeing him being very satisfied looking at himself in the mirror was just really nice to see. I think that was the story that definitely stuck out to me as being very touching. It wasn't about the sexual part of it. It was
Although Jay did get laid.
Jay did get laid that day, but that wasn't the whole point.
You know what struck me most about that was the use of protection. The character put gloves on.
I think it was Lee was the other character.
Yeah, the character put gloves on before performing, what's it called? I guess just jerking someone else off, like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know enough to I am also gun shy of using terms in case we offend somebody.
Well, and just like, cause I don't know how to fucking describe it, but either
we're
way,
both
like,
ace. We don't know these things.
Like what we know, we learn from fiction. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately,
which isn't always the best in representing other bodies.
But thank God for Oh Joy Sex Toy. But anyway, they used gloves, and that's actually not a sexual protection item that gets like seen much. Like, of course, everyone like talks about condoms and stuff, but like that's like the first time I've really seen gloves used.
No, that was definitely an interesting addition, and definitely a very important part of this representing something true, something for these different identities, and showing the way no single sexual encounter or intimate encounter was the same in this book.
Yeah.
Everything was different, and I think that is also very important and very powerful.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Lee was also in an open relationship, because they were with their girlfriend, and after having sex with Jay, like, their girlfriend is like, hey, how's it going? And then they kissed, and they're like, ah, I see.
He's like, I see it, you are still super horny.
Is like, ah. And like that was nice too, which was like a very subtle and sweet like representation. Because I was actually worried about that, because I was like, wait a minute, he has a girlfriend.
Yeah.
But it was...
So representing different relationships, different people, different identities. Overall, a very delightful read. And if you're perhaps questioning, or if you're just seeking representation like this, I highly recommend this book. I want to talk real quickly about our own forays into cosplay, because mine started very, very early. In high school, like I said, again, there wasn't a lot of discourse behind cosplay back in those days. So as a person of color, unfortunately, I had this idea that, oh my gosh, here's all of these white passing characters. I am not white. I was very brown back then, because I was in the sun a lot. I would argue I am still pretty brown compared to the other people that are around me, but definitely
compared to me.
Definitely not as brown as I used to be. But for whatever reason, I thought as a teenager I had to lighten my skin somehow. So I ended up using concealer, I ended up using cream foundation that was much lighter than my own skin tone to try and like match these characters more. And looking back at that, I understand now that, oh, that was so wrong. But I wouldn't say it was my fault necessarily, because there was no discourse. There was no information. There was no way to know that, hey, as a brown person, it is okay to represent these characters. Sure, it might not be 100% accurate, but that's not really the point. Like, you shouldn't have to change your skin tone to feel accepted. So, moving forward, I would like to go back and cosplay some more, but moving forward, I would not change my skin tone. I may pick characters who try and match my skin tone more, just so that it's always nice to see someone of darker skin cosplaying characters of darker skin, just because...
Being able to see yourself.
Yes, and the pervasiveness of white cosplayers, nothing against them, but a lot of white cosplayers get a lot of attention, whereas a lot of people of color do not. And so it's just seeing seeing the people of color being successful in cosplay is really important too, I think.
Yeah. Well, and it's also like a lot of the characters that white people cosplay are not white. They're Asian.
They're Asian.
They're
yeah.
often Japanese. So like to assume that they're white is kind of racist in itself. So anytime like you see someone being like, you can't cosplay that character because you're not white, and it's like, joke's on you, the character wasn't white to begin with.
Surprise! Every anime character, unless explicitly said that they are white, they are Asian.
Yup.
Even though to your eyes they might look white, that's just how they're drawn. And in Japan, if that is where the anime originated from, because the Japanese aren't the only ones who have the market on anime, but chances are their default is Japanese. So.
And you can't just assume they're all white people. That's a very colonialistic take.
But aside
cosplay.
from crossplay specifically. So I crosplayed. Your first cosplay was actually crossplay because we did Cecil and Carlos.
Well, my first cosplay, my baby cosplay, I was Ritsuka from Loveless.
Oh my god, so it was still crossplay.
It was still crossplay.
But,
if you want, like, a reveal of the garbage content I was into.
But yeah, crossplay was a very interesting experience because, I don't know about you, because we haven't really talked about this, actually, but when I've never fully been able to feel comfortable in cosplay as a female character. I think the only time that I was really proud of it was when I cosplayed Twilight Sparkle. Probably because she wasn't a humanoid to begin with. This was way back before the movies even started. So like I was able to imagine a body for her. Like there was no ideal body that I was trying to replicate. It was just, hey, try and represent this pony essentially as a person. Like what would they look like as a person? So that was the only time that I actually felt good in a female character cosplay. And thinking back, I don't think I did many female characters, honestly. I did a lot of male characters. But as the first, I think the first male character that I felt really good about cosplaying was Bruce Banner when the Avengers got really big. So that was literally 2007. I invested in a binder. I was at the peak of my health, honestly. I was at a really good weight. And I really liked the way I looked when I presented as a man. And my gender identity, I would say, is probably still women. But my gender expression changes depending on how I feel and how I want to present. So I wouldn't say I'm cis, if that makes any sense.
So I went through a long period in high school where like people always joke that like I was going through phases, and I don't like when it's put like that because it makes it sound like it wasn't significant, and it really was. Like I thought I was trans for a while, I thought I was bi for a while. Like it took me a long time to like learn my identity. Granted, I grew up in bumblefuck Poconos, so like there weren't 100% a lot of resources, and I didn't really know how to look up that kind of stuff to begin with. So like it was honestly just like seeing what other people were doing and imitating.
Yeah, honestly, I think my first awareness of different gender identities was cosplay.
Yeah.
I honestly think that was where it started for me.
I would probably say similarly it was just fandom and like getting into textual roleplay and being able to actually, you know what? Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons, and I did a lot of theater, and the director was a friend of mine. I did community theater, and he was a gay man. And so when I suggested that I wanted to start playing more male characters, he was 100% like on board. And like if like girls were uncomfortable dancing with me for whatever reason, for like dance scenes, he'd be like, get over it. Like what does it matter?
That's really cool.
Because like they were like, well, what if she's only doing it because she's gay? And he's like, so?
God.
Who cares? It's theater.
Ugh.
Like Michael was amazing, and like so being able to do theater like actually was a large part of my exploration.
But yeah, so
I guess it's crossplay in its own way.
Yeah, so looking back, I would say that Yes, I identify as a woman, but my gender expression goes both ways. Sometimes I do like to present very masculine. I would probably say these days it's more glamour femme, a la Dorian from Dragon Age.
Oh yeah, you are super
just-
glamour lately.
And it's probably because I don't currently own clothes that I feel really comfortable being in and presenting as male. But yeah, back in the day, like, I really, really enjoyed my Bruce Banner cosplay. I really, really enjoyed my Carlos cosplay. And that is something I would love to get back to at some point. How was your experience cosplaying as Cecil?
I actually liked it a lot. I think the only thing I didn't like was, like, I was behind on the show, so I got a lot of spoilers from people I didn't want. But, you know, I brought that on myself, because people were like, oh, well, if you're wearing the costume, you're caught up. And it's like,
Well, I would say that's a problem with fandom in general. But
oh, yeah, fandom is very
cutting out
spoiler-based.
the fandom. How'd you enjoy it?
I mean, I would say, like, dressing masculine's kind of normal for me.
Yeah, I would say that too, actually.
Like, I've always... Like, I like dressing up in dresses occasionally, but I'm always most comfortable just, like... Well, I'll say that it's masculine might be not quite right, but I always feel more comfortable in, like, jeans, sweaters, like, t-shirts, like, stuff that doesn't entirely fit me, because, you know, like, I grew up a skinny kid, and in recent years, I've definitely, like, put on weight and filled out more, so, like, I'm still kind of struggling body image-wise to reckon that, but, like, all the same, like, I've always preferred wearing, like, stuff that's not form-fitting. So, like, I've kind of always... I don't... To crossplay is kind of just, like, for me, just, like, wearing
The norm.
clothes.
It's basically what you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Hang on, give me a second to think here. There's something else I want to talk about, and you can cut this out of the recording while I
Of
think.
course, yeah. Well, I mean, we're
almost done. We're wrapping up. Final thoughts. No, it's not coming to me. I can't think of... Oh, no, the one thing I did want to touch on. I think... I don't know if this is true for you, but definitely for me, my body type, even at the peak of my health, was not accepted by the mainstream.
Yes.
I'm a heavyset girl. At the peak of my health, I was literally exercising at least 10 hours a week. Strenuous exercise. And I was still twice the size of any other girl on my team just because I'm built bigger. I have a wider set shoulders. I'm muscular. I carry a lot of weight just from being kind of thickly built.
You are definitely built like your dad.
Yes. But it's... So I guess it makes sense that given my body type, I would prefer to present as masculine. But nowadays, I am feeling more comfortable being this other portrayal of femininity.
I mean, when you do girl stuff, you're hot. Like,
oh, thanks, babe.
I'm definitely just like,
thanks,
oh,
babe.
Damn.
I worked really hard to really perfect that. That's another, all the baggage between gender stuff. I could go on forever, but now's not the time.
Yeah.
But moral of the story, like, cosplay was really important for me growing up and kind of being secure in my own identity just because I was never reflected anywhere else. I didn't look like...
It was good to read this book where you felt like you existed in it.
And it was nice. And it's a nice story, a nice bit of representation that younger people now can look at.
Yeah.
They have way more resources than we did when we were kids, and it's so nice to see, and I'm just so happy for them.
Oh, yeah.
Well, why don't we wrap up? Why don't you talk about what we got going on here? Who is your Gemsona? I guess not Gemsona, your OC.
It is kind of a gemsona. So, like, we were doing a Steven Universe fan comic back in the day, and we all made gems that we liked, and my favorite was Pearl. And that's my birthstone. So, like, I ended up making... This was before the pink diamond reveal and everything, so I made a pink pearl. Because pearls can come in all sorts of colors. And she is very no-nonsense sort of person. Like, in the comic, she manages the ship's resources and the schedule and everything. So she's, like, always looking at data pads, always being like, no, we can't do that. That's stupid. And her gem weapon is she has these blades, and she puts them on her boots, and she roller derbies the hell out of people.
Oh, that's delightful.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's why I always try to put focus on her hips, because she fucking hip checks people.
Well, Pink Pearl is a delight, and can I say, really fine.
Yeah.
Super hot.
Oh yeah. So, thank you for joining us in spilling our guts about gender expression
Yep.
and body image.
Sorry if this ends up being a longer episode. I just think there's not a lot to cut out of this one. It was a good conversation to have, and I hope that if anybody listens to this, that they feel, I guess, empowered to explore this as
You're
well.
not alone.
Mm-hmm.
You're never alone.
Yeah.
And, of course, you can always reach out to us for that kind of stuff. Like, I love, like, since publishing, like, comics about my own gender identity and sexuality stuff, like, it is always a great joy to hear from people and be like, hey, this thing you made, it made me feel better about my identity. And I was like, yes.
And we're by no means experts. We're
hell no.
we're just two people living together.
Just screaming into the void.
Yeah. But, I mean, if you want to reach out, we're here to listen.
Oh, hell yeah. So anyway, thank you for joining us. We will see you on our next episode of Drawntaneous.
Hey everyone, it's Melanie. Thank you for listening to this episode of Drawntaneous. If you liked what you saw, give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more. If you have suggestions for future topics, feel free to share them in the comments section below. You can find more of Sydney's art on Twitter and Instagram at cclunaart, and you can support her on Patreon and Ko-fi at ccluna.